Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the another track session of NASCOM DSC present, the 16th edition of Annual Information Security Summit. The particular session is on automating network security, tools, technologies, solutions, and framework, wherein we will be discussing and getting the insight from the esteemed panelists on the changing landscape in network security and the automation of network security, then network blind spot as a key concern and also visibility as a solution to overcome the blind spot. And in last, we'll getting insight on the impact of automation to security technology and threat detection. So please welcome Mr. Chandan Pani, CISO Mindtree. Welcome, Mr. Chandan.
Thank you, Ishan.
Please welcome Mr. Rohit, System Engineering Manager, Security Practice at Juniper Network.
Thank you,
Welcome, Mr.
Sam.
Rohit. Yeah. Please welcome Mr. Vipul Kumra, Director, System Engineering, Vehir. Welcome, Mr. Vipul. Also, Mr. Manikant Singh, VP, CISO, DMI Finance Private Limited will be joining us. And the session will be moderated by Mr. Chandan Pani. Over to you, Mr. Chandan.
Thank you, Ishan. And I would like to thank DSA for this wonderful opportunity. So, without wasting time, I would like to jump into today's topic, automating network security. Now, of late, what is happening is the entire world is probably talking about automation, cyber security automation. In that very niche area is network security automation, right? While the other aspects are spoken a lot, discussed a lot, but this is a very specific subject where earlier we used to think that this is the legwork and mostly the firewalls, the switches, the components are not going to be automated, not going to be virtualized. But as we see, this particular field also is catching up in terms of AI, in terms of machine learning, in terms of automation, and things are picking up pretty fast. Now, whether these are good, whether these are bad, whether this is going to create more sense of security, let's talk to the panel and probably we'll try to take their view also to understand where are we and where we're actually heading. So with that, let's pick very specific theme first, and let's see how the landscape is actually changing in terms of automation and network security. So I would like to invite first Mr. Rohit from Juniper Networks. So, Rohit, as a practice manager at Juniper Networks, you closely deal with every aspect of security, network security, and the automation bit also. So, where do you think the journey network security is going ahead? How the automation is going to play a larger role in this particular area? Probably you could share some experience with us.
Thanks, Chintan. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. So let me share my perspective on the network security and the network security. Now, if we just go back and look into the classical approach of how enterprise look into network security, this is more of a castle approach, right? You want to protect the castle, you want to protect the data application inside the castle. So you put some kind of security layer on the castle, perimeter of the castle, and that's how it used to work. Now, that kind of solutions or that kind of approach was good when the traffic was used to be from outside world and all the captive data center used to hold services. Now this has drastically changed in terms of the environment. And the first trigger point definitely is the COVID pandemic. With COVID pandemic, I mean, I'm sure most of the organization have adopted the anytime, anywhere connectivity model. Where they are leveraging technologies to provide connectivity from the outside world. It's no longer office sitting person who is accessing a data center. Users are dispersed, applications are there in the cloud, and with this kind of new environment, the challenge is the security landscape. The threat landscape has increased. Now you don't need to protect your perimeter. You need to connect the entire infrastructure. The threat can come from any side. User can access application from any side, and application can reside, anywhere. Okay. So that's the first change which has happened. The second change which has happened, in my view, is the proliferation of the IoT devices. Right now, we know that in every vertical there are IoT devices which are smart devices. And but point problem is that these IoT devices are not like on a standard OS or hardwares and the layers. So it is very difficult for any kind of endpoint solutions to control them, to have the visibility of them. So the second change which is happening is that organizations are looking for some kind of solutions or approach where there the visibility for these kind of infrastructure also on the IoT devices or IoT machines on that kind of aspect. Now, these two things, which is the COVID pandemic, moving from a legacy approach of castle to anytime, anywhere connectivity, and IoT. So these three key areas, organization wants to shift into a new landscape, and there is a new buzzword I would say which has been coined. It's called of zero trust. Okay, the zero trust
Okay.
approach is something which every organization wants to adopt, wherein they want to control access from machine to machine, user to user, application to application, or vice versa. Any permutation or combination, they want to control, and that can only happen when you don't trust anybody, you don't trust any access, and you have to explicitly allow that build the trust based on the solutions, based on the policies. So zero trust is something which is very much kind of going to be leveraged by the organization. It's already being leveraged by the organization. There are different solutions and tools to do that. So all these changes have leads to a new architecture called zero trust. The second thing, which is the theme of the session, is the networks automation, security automation. Now, traditional response has always been like you keep on piling the security tools, and that will help you to serve the purpose. Getting into point products, they help in some way because you cannot get one product which supports entire security landscape. But the problem is these kind of silo solutions never integrate with each other. So organizations are looking for some kind of architecture or software or hardware, and not only about security layer. Now, if I just want to touch upon on one of the architecture which Juniper promotes in the industry is called connected security, where you need to have some approach where if you have a perimeter firewall, if you have a networking gear, you have a Wi-Fi gear, how you can integrate them so that threat intelligence by any one of this module will be shared among all, and not only is a job of a firewall to protect the network. It is a job of the switch and the router or Wi-Fi or any device to protect the network. So this kind of connected security approach and automation is something which is definitely required. So that's the second point which I want to touch upon. And there are solutions in the industries which are like helps you to orchestrate them, the different solutions. There are software in the industry, and it's every organization based on their policy, their rule set. They are kind of embracing these kind of solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rohit. That's an interesting view. Since you touched upon a couple of buzzwords, zero trust and connected security, so where do you see the adoption of zero trust and connected security uh, actually taking place in the market? Was it kind of better during the pandemic, or even now? I would not say post-pandemic. We are still in the same phase. But where do you see that change is happening?
So zero touch, if you look at this term may be new, but the fundamental functionality was always there in the existence. No, the only thing is it was only limited to a user to application access, where you define your business policy, your security policy. But COVID, because I said that connections are dispersed, the users and data is dispersed. Now, zero trust has now even entered into the cloud world. For example, if you have a cloud workload deployment, no, customers are deploying micro segmentation policy in the cloud, right? Which is again a zero trust, where you don't have any open application to application access. Yes, with COVID pandemic, it has triggered a lot because now the communication is not controlled and the access is not controlled. So this has become like a more of a prevailing factor now, but the fundamental remains same.
Interesting. Thank you for that view. So probably we had industry view how exactly uh, industry is looking at from an OEM standpoint. So let's talk to Mr. Manikant from the other side of the table. So Mr. Manikant, as a CISO, right? Probably you deal with strategy as well from a strategy point of view. Do you see lot automation is getting adopted now? Where do you see the industry is actually adopting automation, network security? See, earlier all these things were there manual, right? Earlier we never used to talk about automation a lot. Now, from a different industry point of view,
Um, Thanks, everyone, for this panel discussion. Thanks, Mr. Chandan, for this wonderful question. Thanks to DCI and the AISS for giving this opportunity. Um, Earlier, if I would say, quote, let's say 15 years back, the word automation was only used especially for lazy people. They should be saying this is lazy, this guy is not doing the work, let's automate the work. And we always place the automation to a OEM. We say let the product be what automatic, and we still follow the same processes. Strategically, we never looked at automation from a end user perspective or a non OEM perspective. Over the period, as people have understood, when it goes to an OEM, it takes a lot of time. One, the R&D. Second, the rollout period is very fast, not faster. The efficiency is very slow. So people started understanding that when we do an automation at the end user side, the other side, it's much faster. One, it gets much more customized. Second, and third is the errors are very limited. When, let's say, a company like let's say Microsoft wants to automate something, it look at a global level, it may not look at a micro level in an organization. But today, if I'm working in an organization like a fintech which needs to roll out for, let's say, a particular vertical of business and do an automation, especially in a network perspective to secure, it's not so difficult. Earlier it was so difficult. So when you really talk about strategizing, the entire mindset has been blown now. People start looking from the drawing board now. They say, okay, let the OEM's innovation stop here. We are now open innovation company. Let's start innovating from here. Automation does not mean reducing the number of heads or probably reducing the number of volume or something. Now the automation is really far behind. It has taken much big leap. One is it started with the invention of AI and ML. The entire automation strategy has become very smooth. Many places the configuration I have never seen in my last 4 5 years. If you are deploying, let's say, 100 devices, you are configuring every device. You configure it in one device and probably deploy it in 100 devices, and then probably in AI ML also does it now. So, strategically thinking, to the board or to the organizations like us, where we are into digital lending, um, the entire automation starts the moment the product lands up in our organization. Whereas the entire thing was happening from an OEM perspective, we expected somebody else to do for it. Just like we'll always expect government to clean up the country or something like that. The entire expectation has moved from the other side to the other side. Now they're saying, now we are automate ready. Let's do this one. Let's do this configuration. Let's move it to this thing. And many advantages in arouse. See, like whereas, like for example, the cost has come down multiple times. You don't need a special OEM partner who used to spend multiple hours to understand our own organizational structure, your framework, then he implements it. Now your guys know what is there in your organization, what is there in your system. They're able to push the system in a very seamless manner. So one way the entire organization is getting benefited. Second thing is the adoption rate. Earlier, the of course during the pandemic, the entire scenario changed because the entire all those automations took a little bit of backseat because the business has to be like keeping the lights on was a very important strategy. The BCP was the biggest strategy, rather than creating a new innovation for the organization in automation. In fact, there have been other innovations which has happened which are really thrown as more better in business perspectives. But from a real pure automation of network, there has been a limited push, which I would say. It could be it would be different for different industries, but especially from fintechs in automation of network, it has been very limited. That's my say.
interesting, Mr. Mankan. So probably if I can ask you a bit more on one aspect of automation. See, when BFSA started automation, right? The banks, they started with tailors, and that led to probably a different set of revolution, right? Banks started reaching to every corner of the city, every corner of the village, right? Earlier it used to be very difficult to set up a branch, the TCO used to be high, and in current setup you just have the ATM device and it starts serving you as a bank, right? So in that context, because automation is something which is there attached to banking industry from a very long time, where do you see the network automation, network security automation is actually going to help the next generation BFSI industry? For example, fintech companies, as you rightly said, digital lending companies. So where you see this synergy is happening?
So as I clearly mentioned, I see it as in three pillars for any organization. One is better network control. One of the important challenges is access control, especially once put in network, then nobody even remembers what was actually implied. People start putting it in document, then they really forget unless until you have a very systematic documentation in a proper intranet. Nothing, everybody forgets, and the guy who was made the entire configuration also forgets it. He leaves the organization also. So today with this automation, what we found is once the configuration is made, the ML remembers the entire logic. So the network control is in place, better network control, which I would see a pillar number one. The second pillar, which I would always say, is your staff, or probably your, what do you say, they're called as network engineers. Their time is well spent. They are not into once upon a time called as the spanner screwdriver engineers. They are now using their brains to better implement protocol information into the system instead of only typically saying jugad work. They are better utilizing. These two pillars I see very strongly. Third thing which I would say is, of course, the cost and uptime is actually proportional to each other. So I would say is the higher, better uptime. Today, when we have so many technologies like parallel processing and better backup to backup to backup, but still when it comes to automation, especially in network, it could be security automation. There are a lot of better things which has happened, which really helps the downtime, reduce the downtime, and we don't wait till something to an incident to happen. Now people have become a little bit more proactive, understanding the entire event, and they are able to take a quick decision. So I see these three important points. One is have control. Second thing is efficiency of employees, and third is your own uptime. These three things are really impacted by a network automation. These are my inputs.
Very interesting view, and I must say, you used your CISO hat to describe the entire adoption process. Okay, so let's move on. So Vipul, now as you are part of a new age security technology company, right? Now, why do you see the entire network automation journey is adopting new technologies, cutting edge technologies? Where you see the newer aspect of, let's say, your earlier we used to call them honeypots of the world, honeynets of the world, right? Your deception technology is coming into picture. So where do you see the actual transformation is happening?
Sure, Mr. Chandan. First, I would like to thank the SCI for giving me an opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel, and to Mr. Chandan for giving me an opportunity to present my views. I hope I am completely audible. Perfect. So, when we talk about network security, there are multiple aspects to it. As Mr. Rohit talked about, there is zero trust. Also, not only from the application side, but also on the network side. Now, we don't trust the devices which are connecting to the network. We want to authenticate them before we want to authorize that. Not even that. We want to even check their compliance level before we want to allow them to connect to our networks. Then we also talked about different aspects like honeypots, etc. Today, I would like to take a little different view. Let's look at what network security is. First, even before network security, let's look at, do we even have network visibility in place? Do we know what is traveling on the network? Because there's so much technologies in place, so many different type of devices in place. So let us talk about them. So let us give it a little different flavor. So, and then we talked about, there are so many blind spots that happen in the network. So let's first analyze the reason why these network blind spots happen in the first place. So most of the network security solutions available in the market are either two. One, they are flow-based, and then we have full packet capture. So let's differentiate between the two. So the flow-based network technologies, what they do, they depend on the network devices like routers and switches to share the net flow data, J flow, depending on the OEM, S flow data, IPFix, etc. So we get the flow traffic generated by these network devices, and then they are then sent to a central layer for processing. They are primarily used to keep the network security solutions lightweight on the resources that they consume. So flow monitoring was traditionally designed for network performance monitoring and visibility. It didn't had at that point of time security in its hindsight. And for this purpose, sample data was sufficient. Even if we enable 1:1 flow capture, which is quite heavy on the network devices and is usually not recommended by the network device OEMs, still it doesn't contain any application data, such as files being transmitted or the payload part of the packet. So the actual data that is there, only the header information is there. Due to this, flow monitoring doesn't provide enough visibility or context required for today's incident response teams, as it lacks application level details and it was never designed from security team's perspective. Another reason is that most of the available network security solutions which are available today are looking at north-south traffic, which is the internet bound traffic. And they don't look at east-west traffic, as Mr. Rohit also pointed that out. Even though east-west traffic today is the predominant source of network traffic, even then just a few of us use security controls to monitor this traffic, which is east and west. So without proper safeguards, attackers can abuse lack of east-west traffic visibility to move laterally around the network once they've slipped past a perimeter security device, such as a firewall. The solution today is to leverage the full packet capture. That's the other side of it, and I would say the better side of it. So to use a full packet capture tool that can provide 100% visibility of not only north-south traffic, but also east-west traffic. So every packet that flows on the network, whether between the devices, whether towards internet or in DMZ, irrespective of which segment it is part of, it has to be captured. Packets, because packets lets you accurately reconstruct exactly what happened and when it happened, so you can uncover the cause of security incident quickly and assertively. You also look at what's happening, so you get the situational awareness of your network. Using deep packet inspection, you can even reconstruct a data exfiltration attempt to see precisely what was taken out, or focus in microscopic level to unearth any short-lived security events that simply don't show up at NetFlow's meta level of detail. The reason why most solutions today don't look at full packet capture is the sheer amount of data that they would need to process. If we start looking at full packet captures, and that too for the complete network, we are talking about processing more than 1 million packets per second for let's say a 10 gig link. This is huge data. And this is precisely where automation in form of AI ML comes handy. So AI ML is becoming very, very important aspect in network security today, also part of the automation. So AI ML is the most suited technology in my belief that will help you detect any threats masked as normal activity. AI ML also looks at longer time horizons, seeing things that can only be seen from looking at data, and what's normal over days, months, and possibly even years to find those weak signals and things that are different, what we commonly call as outlier events. Its automated nature allows us to skim through massive chunks of data and traffic. It can help detect and identify any threats hidden in the sea of chaotic traffic. And not only detection, AI ML can further allow you to prioritize threats and handle some cyber attacks automatically via automation, which can be through preset courses of action. You can run your own playbooks. You can utilize SOAR on top of it. This reduces the need for human intervention, reduces response times, and address security issues without manual effort. Then we also have rule-based detection that is also coming up in the next avatar, in which it utilizes some part of AI ML in terms of detecting the known attacks as well as unknown malware with known tools, techniques, and procedures. We commonly call them TTPs, and indicators of compromise or indicators of attacks. Rules can also greatly help in threat hunting. I truly believe that gone are the days when you only wait for the events to fire. You need to proactively look at what's happening on the network. So you need to do threat hunting. So to summarize, there are 3 key takeaways, I would say, when you're looking at a network security solution. First, you need to leverage network security solution that is capable to uncover network blind spots, such as network detection and response solutions that are available in the market today. But they should be based on full packet capture and not just on the flow of data. Second, we should look at solutions that can leverage the power of advanced AI ML. It's an evolving field, but a lot is happening in that field now. So we should leverage that. And third, just don't rely on detection by these solutions. Train your security teams to do threat hunting as well, because there cannot be a second thought to that.
Okay, interesting view, Vipul. I must say, the way things are changing, probably automation is going to take over and do most of the network security part. But there's a flip side to it, right? We need to take it with pinch of salt. Now, I put it in always this way that it only multiplies either efficiency or inefficiency, the way we want to take it, right? So, on those lines, we have a question from audience. Now, probably I'll address it to Mr. Manikant. Now, how can one balance between the depth of automation in networking, especially when it comes with a lot of dependencies on third parties? So this is what is the question. So if I get it from the question correctly, see, there are a lot of third parties, lot of different OEMs. They come into picture when we talk about it, a typical network stack, right? When we talk about automation, how we play around that, how much depth we should actually look at, so that we don't have complete dependency on others when something goes wrong. So what's your view on that?
See, automation is actually a combination of people and process and tech, which all everybody know. So when we really talk about third-party dependency, as of now, I don't see there is any excuse till the time the pandemic ends, and probably then we get into our own self-sufficiency. Because there are a lot of during the pandemic, there was a lot of third-party dependency that was required because the office has moved to a remote location. There was a lot of configuration requires were required. So many things had to be done from a third party perspective. But very simply said is you cannot escape the entire route of a third party. The minimization can be done by one is you acquire the entire knowledge, you transfer to your employees, retain them, upgrade them, keep upgrading them, and keep moving on. That's the one simplest way, which is not cost effective, it is very expensive. Second thing is looking at the alternative solutions which can compensate these type of solutions. For example, you are, let's say, looking at a $1 million solution, probably look at a very simpler solution which can be cost effective to the organization but still does the same or similar kind of a work. These two can be done, but again, when it really goes to when we say depth, the depth is a very generic word. We don't know what we're meaning, because for me depth may be different from a business perspective, or a CEO the depth may be different. So for a CISO and a CEO, the hats are different, and understanding the third party's involvement is totally different. So in my perspective is there is a possibility of reducing, but completely going away with them is not possible.
Interesting. And I do agree with that view. Okay. So let's move to the next round. Probably while we are talking a lot about automation, network security, what is available, what is not available for all of us, I would like to understand from threat point of view. See, end of the day, whatever we are trying to do, we are trying to address the threat which is probably in front of us, right? So cybersecurity threats are almost every day going up. Now, where do you see this is actually helping the organization? So, in terms of cost, in terms of their threat posture, in terms of attack surface, how network security automation is going to help them? So, probably we'll go to Mr. Rohit. Mr. Rohit, what's your view on these aspects?
Sure. I mean, that's a valid context, and I mean, there are a lot of doubts in organization mind is that automation is one thing, but how you get an ROI? What is the justification of automation which you're doing? And see, automation is the most exploited word right now. There, automation depends on the what kind of use cases you are delivering. Now, for example, doing an automation from a security perspective, the best thing it does for the security operations team is to get some time, avoid themselves from the alert fatigue and focus on the threats and how to mitigate the threats. And obviously, these tools not only reduce the kind of alerts, but they also help you to provide multiple use cases as said automation. For example, if there's a phishing attack happen in a network at the enterprise level, maybe endpoint solution can detect that. That is the first step. Now, if there is a SOC tool which is already integrated with the endpoint as well as the network. The one thing of automation which can happen is like SOC tool can try to fetch more data, ingest more data from the network layer, whether there is a phishing attack, whether there is a malware attack, is there any command and control communication. So some more additional information can be directly fetched from the tools. So which means the earlier it used to be a manual exercise where a SOC person will go and log in into multiple dashboard of different tools and ingest data and analyze. These tools and orchestration tools are doing dynamically. Right? Definitely, there are playbooks, there are intelligence which has to be defined on that. It's not as said, it's not all completely automated, but it is actually helping the SOC operations team to get some time and invest time, get some time from the alert fatigue and invest actually on the threats and being and on the cyber security issues. And that's my perspective.
Yeah, I have something to add to it if you allow me,
Sure, Mr.
Chandan.
Abdul. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, please.
what our experience is with a lot of large banks in India where we have been working, what we have seen that initially all these network security solutions, whether it's an APT, whether it's an EDR, now there are so many names to it, they were having their own threat intel. So, and they were very different in nature. So, what banks started doing, they created a threat intelligence platform wherein they used to take these feeds from all these devices and put it at one place. So they have now centralized that threat intelligence platform. And that becomes a single source of all this threat intelligence, which now feeds back into all these technologies. So because of this automation, so what I've seen, these tools are as good as the threat intel that they get. So it's like if you do not constantly update it, or if in this world it gets stale very easily. So until you update it, and you update it very frequently, which could be few hours, every few hours, every day, it is of not much importance. So with centralization and automation of this threat intel platform by these banks, what I'm seeing is that it is now feeding into all different security technologies, whether it's endpoint, whether it's perimeter security devices, or it's network security devices. And that is giving banks a lot of value in terms of centralizing this and in terms of automating it.
Okay. So probably I'll ask the same question to Mr. Manikandan in a different way. So Mr. Manikandan, probably 20 years ago, when gateways used to be the only solution available for any kind of security, when IT started taking shape, uh, the threats were very simple, and we used to manage with whatever was there at that point of time. But after 20 years, today we are talking about automation, we are talking about so many advanced technologies, we are talking about threat intel. But do you see as a consumer, as a digital player in the market, do you see the threat landscape has actually reduced? All these automations are actually helping us? If yes, in which way? If no, then what's your thought?
Yeah, automation has helped. There's no doubt about it. But if you ask me if the threat landscape has decreased, I would say it has, in fact, increased tenfold times. The shadow IT, which has cropped up like anything, usually in an organization, we keep telling them people don't buy their own compute on any public cloud, but over the fly, people buy their compute, they deploy products, they test it, and they forget it also to even shut the system. So after 6 to 7 months, when we run a threat intel, or probably we run a complete overhaul, then we understand that there's something like that. So challenges, especially from a threat landscape or a risk landscape, has increased at least 10 times. The only thing is automation has little bit reduced the way we were hunting for these type of information. Automation has done an earlier the entire I would say the automation used to run, let's say, in a scheduled job of 9 to 6. Today it runs 24/7. It is able to gather, it is able to collate, and it can exactly get you what is required on a morning dashboard. Instead of the whole day running behind for an information, today we are at least better enough to have a simplified automated methodology. But I don't see in another in next few years also this entire factor is, or the threat factor is going to reduce. It's going to increase far more with more devices coming into picture, multiple devices connecting multiple same applications. Let's say. Let's say, for example, social media platform, you're able to access in your laptop, in your mobile device, in your tab or a pad. Now you don't know what is going to get compromised. The entire vulnerable situation has now increased from one device to multiple devices. So I don't see anywhere in another 5 years down the line till there's a new eroca of some technology. This threat landscape is going to increase far more.
Thank you for that interesting view, Manikan. And probably I would say that is same thing which is running every CISO's mind. Okay. Now, probably let's add a little more complexity to all this. While we're talking about network security, automation, let's add the cloud and DevSecOps bit to it. So, Vipul, if may ask you, what do you see if you integrate all these three together? How the industry actually is going to adopt this three together as a solution, and what value network security is going to bring into the table while we talk about the other two, that is cloud security and your DevSecOps.
Yeah. So the challenge these days is that the network word is the definition is changing because of all this COVID and everything happening. So now you have your employees which are directly connecting to the cloud application. So your network perimeter or so-called classic network perimeter doesn't even come into picture. So irrespective I deploy any network security technology, it will not be able to give me any value because the user is not coming onto that network now. And everybody is working from their own locations and they are directly consuming the applications. Those applications can be hosted anywhere in the cloud, and the cloud providers again do not, because they are into that business, they do not give you that kind of insight what you can get in your own network per se. So you are dependent on the APIs that they expose to you in terms of getting data from it. So it is dynamic in nature. Network security is evolving. There are different ways of ingestions coming in where you start learning about those new technologies, how to ingest packets, make sense of that application logic, and then apply onto it. So it has to be an integrated approach where you need to work with cloud players, which gives you insight into those packets, as well as you need to work at your network, as well as Mr. Manikan said, you need to now uh, have to work with a lot of different end devices and have a support for them. So if you have to, let's say, deploy an agent, you now need to support different operating systems like different Androids, iOS, and whatnot. So it has become very complicated these days. It's not, there is no silver bullet. It's a very complicated subject if we have to cover the entire gamut of technologies and secure them.
Okay,
Can I add
interesting.
just a couple of points on this aspect of DevSecOps?
Sure, right.
Yeah. So my other perspective here on is that, as you rightly mentioned, how the security now is getting integrated into DevOps or cloud environment. I mean, we have always seen now with the cloud native applications, based on this microservice architecture and container world, the developers are just spending time on building the application, roll out the applications. They are not aware of the security controls, right? So now with the DevSecOps, the DevOps has actually transformed to DevSecOps, where these developers are now being trained or now being educated, where before they roll out their application, I mean, just for example, it's a container image, and that container image they probably can download from GitHub. There's a repositories where they can download that. They don't know whether that image is having vulnerability or not, whether there are some open ports on that image or not. They just take that image, work out, and kind of move into a production environment. Now with DevSecOps, there are tools in places where while you are developing the application, you integrate that into kind of CI/CD pipeline, and you check for all the vulnerability and compliance before you move that into production. Even if you miss something and that they got into the production of the cloud environment, the same tools or the new tools are used where they check the same vulnerabilities while the runtime environment is there. So it's not only about the network security, because in cloud you don't know where is your workload loaded, whether it's in X country or Y data center or that cloud. You have multi-cloud environment. So you need to integrate these security tools not only into the physical security, but also into the application, both during the development cycle as well as during the runtimes.
Got it. Thanks, Rohit and Vipul, for that interesting view. We have a very interesting question. I would say that that question is there for every security professional there in the industry. What percentage of your network security can be automated? So probably I would say it depends on organization. It depends on the maturity of the organization, the state and level they are in. But I will also ask or request Mr. Manikant also take or give his view. Do you see an ideal percentage available for us today, or this is purely on the maturity of the organization?
While I second your answer, the maturity and the business requirement is all involved. If you go to any research organization, they will give us a clear picture saying network automation is not more than 50-60% across the globe. It is only those organizations which have reached to that level of business and compliance requirement, they go for automation. Yet people still follow traditional mechanism of pull and push. Then they push it, otherwise they just leave it away.
Got it. Thank you for that view. Now, one more question, probably I will go to Mr. Rohit for this. Mr. Rohit, what is your view on micro network segmentation? Do you see micro network segmentation is going to play a bigger role when it comes to automation of network security?
Definitely. So it actually goes back to the point where I talked about the zero trust architecture, right? And one of the outcome of that zero trust architecture is microsegmentation. Now that again, I would say depends on where you want to do microsegmentation. Is it like you are doing in a cloud environment? Then probably what I talked about, you need to some kind of security controls where you have microservice-based application running container, and you kind of have an access control between those application modules. Microsegmentation is generally nothing but reducing the security landscape or the connectivity landscape, right? So when you talk about a physical network security, you have the physical security policies, zones, and all that concept to do a microsegmentation. But the same, if you take it to the cloud, the approach remains a bit different. You need the mechanism where how you control the application to application access. So it again all boils down, as I will repeat, is onto the zero trust architecture, and that's why it has become more and more predominant that organization need to understand the zero trust approach and move towards this microsegmentation and all this related stuff.
Right. Thanks, Rohit, for that view. Probably one more question to Mr. Vipul. Mr. Vipul, there's one interesting question out there. What are the different technologies which are available today in the market to automate various stack in a typical network? So probably if you can give us few examples which audience can actually look at. Mr. Vipul, if, I'm sure you are on mute.
Sorry. So there are many such technologies. When we say network security, it's a huge subject in itself. Again,
Yes.
there can be multiple technologies that make up the network security, be it network admission control products that we call NAC, could be network detection and response. So I will just take one for now, which is network detection and response, because I have seen that AI ML is playing very, very important part in a network detection and response. Primarily because this is so much data that it needs to process that it cannot be done by any other way. You need to apply AI/ML to get some quality alerts out of it. So what I'm seeing, a lot of automation is happening on NDR side. In fact, there is a Gartner report that came out very recently, a month back, which said that highest amount of AI/ML application is now happening on the network. When it's happening on the network security side, it's going into network detection and response. So primarily looking at the different data that is traveling on the network, and then looking at events and saying that whether the particular communication or the flow that is happening has anything malicious in it or not. And primarily why it's more applicable here is because you would see the trend, more than 90% of all traffic on the internet today is encrypted. And when everything is encrypted, how do you make sense out of that encrypted traffic? So here AI/ML plays an important part. Without decrypting the traffic with certain level of assurance, can you say that what I'm seeing in the traffic, because of the pattern, because of the way it is arriving, because of the connections that are originating from certain IPs, reputation, all that mix. Can I say with certain assurance that this particular communication that is happening is, though it is encrypted, we can't see inside it, but with certain accuracy, you can say it's malicious in nature. And that's the next level of AI ML we are looking at. And that will go a long way into automating network security. That's my belief.
Okay. So we just have less than 2 minutes. So probably I'll have one question to all of you. Probably 30 seconds if you can take and give your view. Do you think security automation or network security automation is the silver bullet for all the problems that we had from ages for managing the so-called network security? I will start with Mr. Manikan.
Automation it's never going to be a silver bullet. It is going to help the organization to probably to go into a diamond kind of valuable mineral, but surely this is not going to be a silver bullet. It is one of the critical components of an entire network. So I don't see this is the silver bullet for automation. Is not a silver bullet for any organization information security.
Is it to me? Sorry, I missed
Yes,
it.
Mr. Rohit, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree here. I mean, automation cannot be a silver bullet here because, as I initially said, automation all depends on the use cases which you want to deliver, right? So, depending on the use cases, you will use automation, and it's not like a magic band where you put automation tool and you will get all the things sorted out. And definitely, it is important, but it is not the things. You still need the solutions. You still need people, process, and technologies to be in place in there. But wherever automation can help you to deliver automated use cases, we should leverage them.
Okay.
I
Let's
second
succeed
with
in
what
10
Mr.
seconds.
Manikant and Rohit said. There is no silver bullet, whether it's automation or any other thing. There is no silver bullet when it comes to security.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that interesting view. I think we are on the dot. Uh, Ishan, if you would like us to continue for a couple of more questions.
Many thanks, each and every panelist, for joining in for this particular session. And thanks a lot, Mr. Chandan, for chairing and moderating. Many thanks. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
Looking
you.
forward for the
Thanks a
future
lot.
events. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having
everyone.
us.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good day.